And it's now my pleasure to introduce Elvin Wyly. Elvin is Associate Professor of Geography at UBC and the Chair of the Urban Studies Coordinating Committee. He studies the relations between market processes and state policy in producing and reinforcing urban social inequalities. Among numerous other books and publications, Elvin is the co-author of a textbook on gentrification called, oddly enough, Gentrification, and more recently, the Gentrification Reader, which was published in 2010. Elvin?
Thank you so much. This is a wonderful panel, and I'm really privileged to be here with these distinguished scholars, advocates, analysts. We're building something, all of us here. We're building a recognition and a constituency and a movement, and it is nonprofit. It is the unpaid labor of all of us sitting around here talking about something. This makes people mad. It makes our adversaries mad because it's not priced. It can't be sold off. It can't be commodified. Gentrification is the class transformation of urban space. Now, for a long time now, gentrification has kind of become this flashpoint of development because people have focused on the local aspects of it. So they've emphasized the space aspect, looking at a particular street or a block saying, is this gentrification, is it not? You know, oh, it's an old unused parcel, and so it is not directly displacing anybody to put luxury condos there. That's very deceptive. Gentrification is the class transformation of urban space. Let's not forget the class part of what's going on here. We are in an urban world, and it is a world of urbanization, and it's also a world of class struggle. We have to emphasize the class part of transformation, because that's what's happening is social housing is being gentrified because everything else is being gentrified. So when Bob Rennie says that there's nowhere to grow in Vancouver except east, the smart money gets in early. Be bold or move to suburbia. He's being 100% accurate. He's got the theory down pat. He understands this fully, and a lot of people in Vancouver do. What's happening is that the last remaining parts of the public constructions of the 20th century are being commodified and sold off. All housing is social housing. Renters understand that. Homeowners simply need to learn that. Okay. Social housing is under attack. We're having to relitigate every achievement from the progressive era through the 1930s, through the disaster of World War II. Child labor, the 8-hour day, the concept of the weekend. That's all been destroyed by giving people Blackberries and stuff like that so they can be on call 24/7. We're having to relitigate all of those achievements. Now, for my entire life, we've been told that the 60s was over and done with and nothing like that is ever going to happen, and we have had these constant attacks on the welfare state. Every component of the welfare state has been under siege through privatization. Now, there's good news and there's bad news here, okay? The good news is that once you chew through all of those historical achievements, once you sell off everything, once you commodify everything, there's a lot of revolutionary possibilities on the other side of that. Do you really want to go back to the 19th century? The next time you're talking to developers, once you're talking to politicians who've been bought up by developers, once you are essentially talking to the 1%, ask them, do you really want to go back to the 19th century? Do you remember any history? Now the bad news, of course, is there's going to be a lot of pain and suffering to get there. Okay? We don't know exactly how long this is going to take. Every part of the system that we are defending here, in terms of social housing, came out of crisis. It came out of a broad recognition that you can't blame the individual for everybody, for everything. You can't privatize everything and say, this is mine, I achieved it, it belongs only to me. What we have is a social creation. Urbanization creates value. ownership rights then partition it and say you can have it and you can't have it. Now the biggest divide is between owners and renters. Of course, owners have this really strange concept. They owe a certain amount to the bank usually, okay? And then there is the market value of the house, okay? And then the difference, they do a little subtraction. And what do we call that? We call that equity. There's nothing equitable about it. Nothing at all. They get it, okay, as an owner, and renters don't get it. Renters get this constant sense that you're not personal responsible. You're not an owner. You don't have home equity. You can't get a home equity line of credit. Now, when the markets crashed in 2008, we had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go up to every rich homeowner that you could find, and you could talk to them, and you could say, your house is worth $100,000 less this year than it was last year. What did you do wrong? Now, obviously, if you're going to sit back and say, when your home equity increases every year, you're going to say, I did that. Yeah, I earned that. No, you didn't. That was built by urbanization. You can't have a city by yourself. A city is inescapably a social product. So what we have here is this opportunity to talk to middle-class homeowners and to remind them that they are renters. Now, they know this in their bones, but they can't afford to admit it because neoliberalization has replaced a social contract with the idea that that home equity, that individual home equity, is going to help them retire, put their kids through school, deal with unexpected expenses. Basically, everything the welfare state has abandoned, homeowners are saying, I'm really glad that I bought when I did in this insanely expensive housing market. So what's happened is people have come to use home ownership as a way of dealing with the contradictions of neoliberalism that many of us here have pointed out. There is an extraordinary opportunity. We don't know exactly when we're going to get this chance to really have this conversation because the market crash didn't hit Canada the same way it did the United States, and it didn't hit Canada the same way it is flowing across Europe. But we know it's coming here. We don't know exactly when, we don't know exactly what the details are, we just need to be ready. And we need to be ready to ask in a very friendly way to these middle-class people who are engaged in what is called dream up, blame down, which is you dream you're going to hit the lottery and you're not going to have to worry about it. You're going to hit the real estate lottery and everything's going to be fine. And when you fail, then you blame down. You blame the people who are on welfare. You blame poor people who you think are getting all your tax benefits, and they're not, of course. Most taxes are going for middle class and wealthy welfare. So we have this opportunity to remind people that everyone lives in social housing. And as soon as we recognize that, we simply need to rebuild this understanding of access to housing, the use value of housing, not the emphasis on constant exchange value and constant speculation, constant attempts to take the use values of cities, of urbanization, the fundamental community, and to put a price on everything. Not everything can be priced. Neoliberalism is financed by poaching the social investments in the public sector and in those parts of life that are comparatively less commodified. Health, childhood, education, community, even old age and death. All of those are now the frontier of attempts to commodify. Housing is this one that gives us an opportunity to get a lot of people on our side and just to remind them, everyone lives in social housing, even those people who think they own, because they're just renting capital. Capital is the landlord when they have their mortgage payment every month. And they know this, we just need to remind them. Thanks.